Welcome to NDTV World Special Show on India's response to the dastardly Pahalgam terror attack. India has avenged the lives of 26 civilians, sent the strongest message to Pakistan. I'm Gaurie Dwivedi, and this is the story so far. Prime Minister Modi briefs Union Cabinet on Phase 1 of Operation Sindoor. India launches Operation Sindoor, targets Pakistan's terror factories across 9 locations in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Operation Sindoor avenges the Pakistan-backed Pahalgam terror attack.
Morning, as you would be aware, India exercised its right to respond and preempt as well as deter more such cross-border attacks. Earlier this morning, as you would be aware, India exercised its right to respond and preempt as well as deter more such cross-border attacks.
Foreign Secretary says India exercised its right to respond, preempt and deter more cross-border terror attacks. Describes the Operation Sindoor as measured, non-escalatory, proportionate and responsible.
He said that the Indian armed forces are fully prepared to respond to Pakistani misadventures, if any.
India sends strong messages to women. Wing Commander Varmika Singh and Colonel Sofia Qureshi lead the briefing on Operation Sindoor. India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval speaks with the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio shortly after the targeted strikes. Viewers, in the early hours of May 7th, India launched Operation Sindoor, a high-precision military strike targeting the terror infrastructure deep inside Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. In fact, 25 minutes saw 24 missiles and 9 strategic locations. From Muzaffarabad to Bahawalpur, India struck key terror hubs, long believed to harbor Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed operatives. According to India's Defense Ministry and the specific intel it had, over 70 terrorists were killed, including high-ranking field commanders. There were 60 terrorists who were injured. And viewers, these were not random strikes. They were surgical demolitions of camps, of depots and recruitment bases. In Bahawalpur, a known ideological terror training compound, it was completely flattened. In Neelam Valley, command nodes were dismantled, all with precision munitions, minimizing the collateral damage on civilians or military installations. Perhaps most explosive is the claim of Pakistan army complicity. In fact, India presented evidence that Pakistani military elements, whether it is the ISI or other deep state elements, provided logistics, training and safe havens to these terror groups. Some camps operated within eyesight of the Pakistani army cantonments. The international community has responded swiftly. While many, like Israel and Japan, have acknowledged India's right to self-defense after years of provocation, others, including the UN, the US and EU, have of course urged restraint, but they understand that scourge of terrorism needs to be stamped out. The line of control remains tense. Why? Because Pakistan has been violating ceasefire ever since the Pahalgam terror attack took place. Artillery fire, missile tests, airspace lockdowns are in place. Both sides remain on high alert. Operation Sindoor wasn't just about retaliation, viewers. It was in fact an important shift, a message that terrorism will no longer go unanswered, and those who shield it will have to face the consequences. As the world watches, India has drawn a bold red line across the map, which may very well define the next chapter of India-Pakistan relations, and it will also decide how India will respond to terrorism attacks that will take place on its soil against its citizens.
Earlier this morning, as you would be aware, India exercised its right to respond and preempt as well as deter more such cross-border attacks. These actions were measured, non-escalatory, proportionate and responsible. They focused on dismantling the terrorist infrastructure and disabling terrorists likely to be sent across to India. You would also recall that the Security Council on 25th April 2025 had issued a press statement on the Pahalgam terror attack, underlining, and I quote, the need to hold perpetrators, organizers, financiers, and sponsors of this reprehensible act of terrorism accountable and bring them to justice, unquote. India's latest actions should be seen in this context. The features of this attack also tie in with Pakistan's long track record of perpetrating cross-border terrorism in India, which is well documented and beyond question. Pakistan also has a well-deserved reputation as a haven for terrorists from around the world, with internationally proscribed terrorists enjoying impunity there. In addition, Pakistan has been known to willfully mislead the world and international forums, such as the Financial Action Task Force, on this issue. The latest attack in Pahalgam has understandably generated deep anger in Jammu and Kashmir and in other parts of India. Following the attacks, the government of India naturally responded with a set of initial measures relating to our engagement with Pakistan. You're all aware of the decisions that were announced on the 23rd of April. However, it was deemed essential that the perpetrators and planners of the 22nd April attack be brought to justice. Despite a fortnight having passed since the attacks, there has been no demonstrable step from Pakistan to take action against the terrorist infrastructure on its territory or on territory under its control. Instead, all it has indulged in are denials and allegations. Our intelligence monitoring of Pakistan-based terrorist modules indicated that further attacks against India were impending. There was thus a compulsion both to deter and to preempt.
Precision capability, as shown to you, a niche technology weapons with careful selection of warheads was ensured so that there will be no collateral damage. The point of impact in each of the target was a specific building or a group of buildings. All the targets were neutralized with clinical efficiency, and the results reiterate the professionalism of the Indian Armed Forces in the planning and execution of their operations. No military establishments were targeted. India has demonstrated considerable restraint in its response. However, it must be said that the Indian Armed Forces are fully prepared to respond to Pakistani misadventures, if any.
सैयदना बिलाल कैंप, मुजफ्फराबाद, यह एक जैश मोहम्मद का स्टेजिंग एरिया है। यह हथियार, विस्फोटक और जंगल सर्वाइवल ट्रेनिंग का केंद्र भी था। गुलपुर कैंप, कोटली, यह एलओसी से 30 किलोमीटर दूर था। लश्कर तोयबा का बेस था जो रजौरी, पुंछ में सक्रिय था। 20 अप्रैल 2023 को पुंछ में और 9 जून 2024 को तीर्थ यात्रियों के बस हमले में यहीं से आतंकी को ट्रेन किया गया था। बरनाला कैंप, बिंबर, ये एलओसी से 9 किलोमीटर दूर है। यहाँ पर हथियार हैंडलिंग, आईडी व जंगल सर्वाइवल का प्रशिक्षण केंद्र था। अब्बास कैंप, कोटली, यह एलओसी से 13 किलोमीटर दूर है। लश्कर तोयबा का फिदाइन यहाँ तैयार होता था। अब मैं पाकिस्तान के अंदर के टारगेट से अवगत कराना चाहूँगी। पहला, सर्जल कैंप, सियालकोट, यह अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सीमा से 6 किलोमीटर की दूरी पर है, सांबा कठुआ के सामने। मार्च 2025 में जम्मू एंड कश्मीर पुलिस के 4 जवानों को की जो हत्या की गई थी, उन आतंकवादियों को इसी जगह पर ट्रेन किया गया था। दूसरा, महमूना जाया कैंप, सियालकोट, यह 18 से 12 किलोमीटर आईबी से दूर था। हिजबुल मुजाहिदीन का बहुत बड़ा कैंप था। ये कठुआ जम्मू क्षेत्र में आतंक फैलाने का नियंत्रण केंद्र था। पठानकोट एयरफोर्स बेस पर किया गया हमला भी इसी कैंप से प्लान और डायरेक्ट किया गया था। मरकज ताइबा मुरीद के, यह आईबी से 18 से 25 किलोमीटर दूरी पर है। 2008 के मुंबई हमले के आतंकी भी यहीं से प्रशिक्षित हुए थे। अजमल कसब व डेविड हेडली भी यहाँ ट्रेन हुए थे। मरकज सुभान अल्लाह भावलपुर, यह इंटरनेशनल बाउंड्री से 100 किलोमीटर दूर है। जैश ए मोहम्मद का मुख्यालय था। यहाँ पर रिक्रूटमेंट, ट्रेनिंग व इंडोक्ट्रिनेशन का केंद्र भी था।
Viewers, what you just heard were three important sound bites. First, the Foreign Secretary explaining the need, the rationale for undertaking that precise strike. Then you heard Wing Commander Voyamika Singh and then Colonel Sophia Qureshi telling you the precise, calibrated manner in which these strikes were undertaken, how credible intelligence was the reason and the backbone of these strikes being undertaken for those precise terror locations. The world has been backing India all along, ever since the Pahalgam terror attack. At the United Nations also, there was not a single statement that came out, even though Pakistan tried its level best. Why? Because the Committee of Nations is now standing firmly to tackle the scourge of terrorism. And who is the fountainhead of this terrorism? Well, Pakistan. Pakistani Defense Minister is on record saying that they've been doing this dirty work for years for the West, and so has several other political parties and leaders in Pakistan, which is why the Global Committee of Nations, as I said, backs India. And what are they now saying after these limited strikes? Let's first listen in to President Donald Trump. We come back and then talk more about what are the reactions that are coming in, including from India's strongest ally, Israel. But first up, President Trump.
No, it's a shame. We just heard about it just as we were walking in the doors of the Oval. Just heard about it. I guess people knew something was going to happen based on a little bit of the past. They've been fighting for a long time. You know, they've been fighting for many, many decades and centuries, actually, if you really think about it. No, I just hope it ends very quickly.
All right, we're now going to talk about some of those important reactions that have been coming in, including from Israel, as I said, New Delhi's strongest supporters. And Vishal Vivek, my colleague, takes us through some of those reactions coming in. Vishal, decode that for us. Tell us in detail.
So reactions have been trickling in from across the world. Donald Trump was one of the first leaders in the world to react to this Indian strikes in Pakistan. He said that the countries have been fighting for a long time. Hope this fight ends quickly. This is what Trump said soon after the strikes. And US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has also commented on the strikes and said that US is monitoring the situation quite closely and they will continue to engage with both the parties, India and Pak. And this is what the reactions are from the US. When it comes to the United Nations, the chief of United Nations, Antonio Guterres, has said that they are quite concerned about these fresh escalations and they urge both the parties to exercise maximum restraint. And world cannot afford a military confrontation at this point because we all know there have been several military conflicts across the globe. And this is what the UN chief said. UAE from the Middle East has said that they have also asked both the parties to exercise maximum restraint and they've called for dialogues to prevent any further military escalation. So that is what has been the common thread between all the countries that have been reacting to these strikes.
All right, Vishal, thanks much for that update. And on that note, I'm going to slip into a very short break, come back and talk more about what is the weaponry that was used for these sophisticated attacks that India carried out. We come back and talk on that and much more. Stay with us. Indian Army's Operation Sindoor, 25 minutes, 9 key targets. Pakistan, Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, specific areas which were the terror factories have been dismantled. But what was the weaponry that was used by Indian forces for this sophisticated operation to dismantle the terror infrastructure in these targeted strikes? Arjun Samar Mahindan breaks that down for us.
Well, India has utilized a suite of high-precision, long-range strike weapons in the operation. Among these were the Scalp cruise missiles, the Hammer precision bombs, and of course, the loitering munitions, also known as the kamikaze drones. Now, the Scalp or the Storm Shadow missile, it's a long-range air-launched cruise missile with a range extending 250 kilometers, and it's specifically designed for deep strike capabilities. Now, coming on to the Hammer or the highly agile modular munition extended range. The Hammer smart bomb was used to strike hardened infrastructure. Now, this also includes infrastructure which is reinforced and multi-story buildings which have been used by terror outfits like the Lashkar-e-Taiba and the LET in the past in Pakistan. It has a range of around 50 to 70 kilometers depending on what altitude it's actually launched from. And finally, the loitering munitions, also known as the kamikaze drones. Now, these loitering munitions were deployed for surveillance, target acquisition, and terminal strike roles. These drone systems hover over targets and either autonomously or under remote control identify and eliminate threats.
So has India been able to achieve its key objectives from this specific, precise attack on these terror factories? What happens next? What should we be prepared for? Lieutenant General V.K. Chaturvedi breaks that down for us on the show. General Chaturvedi, thanks so much for speaking to me. I want to understand from you, firstly, has India's core objectives been met with this attack that took place, that it undertook?
Gaurie, definitely as far as the kinetic engagement or the military action is concerned, the objectives have been met. We have neutralized their training camps and also the headquarters of the terror organization, that is the Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba and Hizbul Mujahideen. Deep inside, not only in the LC sector, it is now even in the IB sector in the Pakistan, Punjab. However, if you are asking me whether the complete objectives which India has set for itself have been achieved, I'll say not yet. There are still the economic, I'll say diplomatic and political actions that will need to be taken to ensure Pakistan gets isolated and learns the lessons of its life and does not indulge in as a statecraft for its achieving its national objectives, use terror.
Terror as a state tool that has been the go-to strategy for Pakistani generals for almost 3 decades now. General Chaturvedi, then let me ask you this, that the 25-minute operation saw very precise, credible intelligence-backed strikes that took place and the 9 terror camps that were dismantled. There is also surveillance proof that's come in, that there's drone proof as well. What do you think our next course of action should be? As someone who's done this planning, preps and all in the past, talk to us about what is the next steps that we should be prepared for.
Gaurie, India has taken all the possible steps. They have catered in the likely Pakistan response. What we have done in last night, that is between 1:05 and 1:30, that those 25 minutes that you just said, is the highest degree of professionalism, and any armed forces will be proud of the action that Indian armed forces have done. We have destroyed the 9 terrorist camps and the headquarters at Bahawalpur without causing any collateral damage. We went in for precise attack. We had the precise information. We deliberated upon the mode. We ensured adequate amount of surprise and deception in our execution, and also carried out the final attack with total commitment, dedication and precision. We came out without any casualties, unscathed. This is tribute to our armed forces, and I bow my head to the professionalism that our Indian Army, and I'm proud of the Indian Armed Forces. As far as the Pakistan response, India is very well prepared all across the border. That is the LC as well as the IB sector. But I don't think we have only engaged the terrorist camps and their headquarters, which is as per what the United Nations had desired.
And I think that is
They
the
need to be brought to
distinction.
justice.
And that is the real distinction of a professional army, not one that is ideologically committed to a particular cause or backed by a certain religious thought. This is the professional army, the Indian army, that it goes by intelligence and only focuses on those terror modules that were attacked. No civilian casualties, no military installations targeted. And I think that is the biggest takeaway, isn't it, General Chaturvedi?
Totally agree with you, and that is the reason why Pakistan cannot now in any way find some sort of a reason to retaliate. What will they retaliate? We don't have any terrorists. We don't indulge in this type of nonsense and non-military type of activities. We are a professional army. We believe in conventional means. We fight one-to-one, face-to-face,
Absolutely.
if there is a requirement. But we do not cause the atrocities on those unarmed, totally, they were innocent people.
Absolutely.
Those whom they killed in
They had nothing to do with these
Pahalgam.
terror factories that were running,
Yes.
but these
So that has
terrorists
never
and
been the
their
practice by the
bosses
Indian
had
Army.
to pay
We
for
have
what
never done
happened.
it.
General Chaturvedi, really appreciate you joining me. In fact, viewers, today marks an important day not just for India and its fight against terror, but also for the families of the victims in the horrific terror attack, those who lost their loved ones to India's worst terror attack since 26/11. They had nothing to do with these terror factories. They were at one of India's most popular tourist spot, but they were shot in cold blood by those terrorists. And today, India has avenged that terror attack with these calculated strikes on the terror modules. Viewers, India is not stopping. It is planning. It is preparing. There are mock drills that are set to take place across 244 districts of India. Operation Abhyas. It's being held across the country to prepare residents. These drills will be for air raid sirens. They will be for blackouts and much more. But schools, colleges, hospitals, banks, all will remain open. Why? Because it's not about panic. It's about preparation. It's an exercise that hasn't been done since 1971. Viewers, it's also a testimony to the times we live in, that India lives in, that Indians live in. Thank you for watching this very special show. Jai Hind.